All right, and we're live. Hello, welcome back. Daily Edge, little news, little motivation, and I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Um, got some U.S. Just gonna start some world news, foreign policy. Okay, let's do that. What's going on with Venezuela?
Tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela are extremely high due to the U.S. has a large military presence in the Caribbean, conducting strikes on suspected drug boats, while Maduro has mobilized troops.
Okay. Yeah, let's get a little more in depth on that. Well, hello.
The situation with Venezuela involves escalating U.S. military pressure and high stakes diplomacy. Let's see. U.S. military buildup. The U.S. has sent its largest show of force in generations to the Caribbean, including the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier.
Okay.
Ultimatum. President Trump reportedly gave President Maduro an ultimatum to immediately step down, offering safe passage for him and his family. Maduro refused, instead requesting global amnesty and retaining control of the armed forces. Airspace closure. Trump declared the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed, a move Venezuela called a colonialist threat. Drug boat strikes. The U.S. has executed at least 21 airstrikes since September on vessels alleged to be carrying drugs, resulting in over 80 deaths. The U.S. claims this is a counter-narcotics campaign, while critics and analysts suggest the scale of the deployment points toward a goal of regime change. War crimes allegation. There are bipartisan concerns and investigations into whether a follow-up strike on one of the boats that killed 2 survivors was a war crime.
Okay. Let's see here. What else we got going on? Anything else? World news.
The major world news headlines are currently focused on 1. Global tensions/conflict. Venezuela. Extreme tension continues after the U.S. president declared Venezuelan airspace closed and sent a major naval deployment to the Caribbean, which Venezuela denounces as a threat of intervention. Ukraine. The war continues, with reports that U.S.-Russia talks may pressure Kyiv to make concessions. Gaza. The death toll from the conflict has surpassed 70,000, despite a ceasefire, with ongoing reports of strikes. 2. Trade and economics. Geopolitics versus economy. India's External Affairs Minister stated that politics increasingly trumps economics globally, stressing a need for supply source diversification due to fragmentation and trade wars. U.S. tariffs. Major U.S. companies, including Costco, are suing the administration over the use of emergency tariff powers. 3. Domestic U.S. focus. Venezuela boat strikes. Officials are debating who authorized the controversial second strike on an alleged drug boat, which resulted in casualties.
Okay. Well, what's going on in Gaza?
The conflict in Gaza is in a state of a fragile ceasefire, but violence persists. Ceasefire is volatile. A ceasefire has been in effect since October 10th, but both sides accuse the other of violations, and Israeli strikes continue. High casualty toll. The Palestinian death toll has surpassed 70,000 since the war began, with hundreds more killed since the ceasefire took effect. Hostage/body exchange. Exchanges of deceased hostages and Palestinian bodies/prisoners are ongoing under the truce terms. Humanitarian crisis. The UN states the conflict has created a human-made abyss, and Gaza's economy has contracted by 87% due to the destruction of infrastructure and severe blockades.
Okay. Doesn't sound like a ceasefire to me. I don't know. All right, what's going on nationally?
The main national news stories in the U.S. right now are immigration crackdown. Following a recent shooting involving a National Guard member, the administration has paused all asylum decisions and is discussing widening a travel ban to cover more countries. Controversial boat strike. The White House confirmed the military fired 2 separate times on an alleged drug boat, which has led to bipartisan concern and legal debate over the second strike. Political clemency. The president granted clemency to an executive convicted in a major fraud scheme shortly after he began his 7-year prison sentence. Economic worry. Consumer confidence has dropped to a low point due to high prices and sluggish job gains, leading Americans to cut back on holiday spending. Healthcare rule repeal. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, repealed minimum staffing standards for nursing homes, arguing the mandate was impractical, especially for rural facilities.
All right, tell me more about the healthcare.
The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, has repealed provisions of the federal minimum staffing standards for nursing homes. The original rule, finalized in April 2024, it required facilities to provide a minimum of 3.48 total nursing hours per resident per day, including dedicated time from a registered nurse, RN, and a nurse aide. Reason for repeal. HHS stated the rule was a, quote, rigid, one-size-fits-all mandate that disproportionately burdened facilities, especially those in rural and tribal communities, and could jeopardize patient access to care due to existing workforce shortages. Opposition. Opponents of the repeal argue that eliminating the standards removes a crucial safeguard for resident safety and quality of care. Political context. The repeal aligns with the current administration's deregulation goals, following earlier court rulings and a 10-year moratorium placed on the mandate by Congress. End date by Congress. End date by Congress.
Okay. What's going on with the immigration crackdown?
The immigration crackdown has intensified following a recent shooting involving a National Guard member. Key actions by the administration. Asylum pause. Officials have ordered an indefinite pause on all asylum decisions to ensure maximum vetting of all applicants. Travel ban expansion. The administration is considering expanding its existing travel ban to include around 30 countries. Green card review. A full-scale, rigorous re-examination of green card applications is underway for nationals from countries on a list of concern, currently 19 nations. Vowed suspension. The president has also vowed to permanently pause migration from all third world countries and pursue reverse migration.
And that is just due to what? Sorry.
The primary trigger for the intensified immigration crackdown was the fatal shooting of a National Guard member by an Afghan national in Washington, D.C. last week. The administration stated this incident and the suspect's immigration status, he was granted asylum this year, show vetting failure. The current process is insufficient to ensure maximum security. National security risk. The entry of certain foreign nationals is deemed detrimental to U.S. interests. This has led to the immediate pause on all asylum decisions for enhanced screening and the proposed expansion of the travel ban.
Yeah, but everybody was pushing for this before that happened. Why? Everybody was pushing for that before that happened. Why? You don't want to listen to me? Everybody was pushing. I just stopped listening to you.
The move to restrict immigration and pause asylum decisions has been a long-standing goal for the current administration, driven by rhetoric and policy proposals focused on 1. National security. The administration has consistently argued that existing vetting processes are inadequate and that certain immigrant groups pose a security risk to the U.S. 2. Perception of burden. Officials have frequently stated that immigrants from specific countries, often termed third world countries, are a burden on the nation's welfare system and social services. 3. Policy momentum. The administration had already announced measures before the shooting to review the cases of all refugees admitted under the prior administration and had implemented stricter border and asylum policies. The recent shooting became the immediate justification and catalyst to execute the existing, planned policies like the asylum pause and travel ban expansion.
And why is that?
The administration's reasoning for pursuing stricter immigration policies, especially targeting migrants from certain countries, is centered on three main claims. 1. National security. The primary justification is that migrants from specific countries, referred to by the president as third world countries, pose a security risk, and the current vetting processes are insufficient to block individuals with criminal backgrounds or extremist ties. 2. Economic burden. The president claims that these migrants are a public charge, a burden on the U.S. welfare system, and are not a net asset to the country. 3. Strain on infrastructure. The administration argues that migrant inflows are the leading cause of social dysfunction, like overwhelmed hospitals, housing shortages, and high crime rates in certain areas. The recent shooting was used to directly validate these long-held concerns and justify the immediate action of pausing asylum decisions.
But if he was an Afghan national that worked for or with the CIA before, doesn't this feel like it was maybe set up? Just saying, just saying.
The Afghan national, Rahmanullah Lakanwal, was confirmed by the CIA to have been a member of one of its Zero units, a partner anti-terrorism force in Afghanistan. This history has fueled the setup suspicion or intense scrutiny for these reasons. 1. High-level training. Individuals in these units underwent extensive vetting and were highly trained by U.S. forces, making the unvetted claim controversial. 2. Motive unknown. The shooter drove across the country for what officials called a targeted ambush, but his motive is still under investigation. 3. Mental health. Emails from his caseworker show he struggled with severe mental health issues and was isolated in the years before the attack, raising questions about whether the failure was one of mental health support, not just security vetting. 4. Political timing. Critics of the administration argue that officials are using the high-profile shooting of a former CIA partner, whose asylum was granted this year, as an immediate justification to implement policies they already planned to restrict all asylum and immigration from specific countries.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, we got any other national news maybe nobody's heard of yet? Something breaking. Probably not.
A significant story that may not be a top headline but is
Costco.
breaking in the legal/economic sphere is Costco suing the administration over tariffs. Retail giant Costco, along with dozens of other U.S. companies like Kawasaki and Bumblebee, is suing the government to demand a full refund of duties paid under the current administration's global tariffs. The legal challenge. They argue the tariffs were imposed illegally under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, a law typically used for sanctions, which they claim does not grant the president the power to set tariffs. The urgency. The lawsuits are urgent because companies face a December deadline where they could lose the ability to recover refunds, even if the Supreme Court rules the tariffs unlawful next spring.
Okay. All right, what do we got? Local news.
Based on recent reports in Fairmont, MN, fatal house fire. A house fire on South Park Street tragically claimed the life of a 43-year-old man Monday night. 4 Fairmont police officers were also treated for smoke inhalation. The cause is under investigation. Local art feature, the Red Rock Center for the Arts, is currently featuring a show by local self-taught artist Sydney Wren. Firefighter donation. Martin County corn and soybean growers donated 15 gallons of soy foam, a soy flour-based product, to the Fairmont Fire Department as part of a state initiative. Planning Commission. The Fairmont Planning Commission is meeting today, Tuesday, at 5:30 p.m. to review conditional use and home occupation permits.
Well, rest in peace, Jared. What's our weather forecast look like?
In Fairmont, it'll be cloudy with a high of 28 and a low of 3. Right now, it's 18 and cloudy.
What about the next 7 days?
The weather in
15, 19, Friday 28, 22, 13, 21. Yeah, it's going to be in the 20s. After today and tomorrow, it should be like 19, 28, 22. Then Sunday, it's going to drop back down to 13. So, what else we got going on today? Anything else going on today? No? What else is going on today?
Beyond the main topics, here are a few other things happening today, December 2nd. Political/diplomatic talks. President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, are scheduled to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to discuss a revised US-backed peace proposal for Ukraine. Healthcare legislation. The House passed the Hospital Inpatient Services Modernization Act, H.R. 4313, which would extend the acute hospital care at home program for 5 years. UN leadership. A woman from the United Arab Emirates, Ms. Al-Shaika Nawais, will be the first woman to lead the UN Specialized Agency for Tourism in its 50-year history. Giving Tuesday. Today is Giving Tuesday, a global day dedicated to charitable giving and volunteering, which occurs every year on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Well, it's Giving Tuesday, guys. I guess. All right, let's wrap all this up and put in a little motivational segment here.
That's a perfect way to wrap up. We can take all the heavy world news and turn it into actionable motivation. Here are 3 concise motivational points for your live stream, focusing on themes of control, small action, and resilience in the face of global events. 1. Focus on your circle of control. The news cycle is overwhelming, but your motivation lies in what you can control. You can't stop the conflict in Gaza or the tensions in Venezuela, but you can control your daily habits, your attitude, and the energy you bring to your immediate tasks. 2. Embrace small wins. When the global challenges feel too big, break down your personal goals into tiny, achievable steps, which you know is key for maintaining momentum. Celebrate the small win, whether it's sticking to your routine, getting through a tough workday, or just surviving Theminus 10 to the power of Circ F weather. Small wins build the strength needed for big challenges. 3. The storm builds the sailor. Remember the quote, "I am not afraid of storms, for I am learning how to sail my ship." Difficult times, whether personal or global, are the friction that polishes you. Adversity is your greatest sparring partner. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. Next step. Are you ready to go live? Or would you like a short, catchy quote to use?
Or would you like a short, catchy, cute quote? All right. So, AI is fun to use. And the storm builds the sailor. Remember that quote. I am not afraid of storms, for I am learning how to sail my ship. Difficult times. Yeah. Whether personal or global. Okay. Yeah. Remember this quote. I am not afraid of the storms, for I am learning how to sail my ship. That's a good one. Well, if ever anybody ever sees the old videos or this video, you want certain topics might interest you, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day. Peace.